Hi, welcome to the Coffee with Lisa podcast. I believe that everyone in business has missing structures and endless possibilities to create new opportunities. The challenge is most don't know how to leverage the relationships for a win-win. I believe that your relationships will make the difference in the results you'll achieve, the impact you will have, and the speed in which you will make opportunities happen. I believe that you can see things through, but you often struggle to see through things. I'll make the invisible visible, the complex simple. Because of these beliefs, I created the Coffee with Lisa podcast and have invited the best experts to join me and share their experiences and knowledge with you so you can move faster and gain a competitive advantage in life and in business. Good morning. Welcome to the Coffee with Lisa, or should I say good afternoon for some of you. Today I have a very special guest. This gentleman is a thought leader in his industry. He believes that everybody in life should have a coach. And I'm so excited to bring Coach Micheal Burt on today to talk about some extraordinary stories, get a little personal with Coach, and learn a little bit more about how can we get in the game of life and in business today. Here he comes. Morning, Coach, or afternoon, I guess.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it is afternoon here. It's 1 o'clock. I was doing a session this morning with folks in Singapore and London and Miami, so it was afternoon. They were ready to go to bed, and I was just getting started. So
yeah, good to be with you. Exactly. You know, that's what you talk about when you want to get in the game, right? Get all over the world. So, Coach, tell me something. I mean, we know each other fairly well. We've, been doing business together. We've known each other for a couple of years. And the one question I've never really asked you is, do you consider yourself lucky? I mean, you've got a lot of success. So are you lucky, or did you just happen to be at the right place at the right time? I know you worked hard.
It's interesting. At 43, I look back with a lot more humility than I had many years ago. And I was having dinner one night at a restaurant after I won a championship, and a guy said to me, "Oh, you were just lucky." And Lisa, I thought I was going to come unglued when he said that. But I was young, and I was probably overconfident. Now I look back on life and I've had some incredible breaks. I do think I have created some of those breaks. I do think the harder you work, the luckier you get. So I think it's a combination of right place, right time, right break, knowing the right person, opening a door you didn't expect. But to me, I have found during this cycle, the real value of having deep networks. Yeah. The real value of having networks of people where you never know where opportunity is going to come from. You never know who you're going to be called. Some of the most unlikely people in the world I've talked to during this period that I don't normally talk to. So it's been pretty interesting. So I do think there's a combination of luck and preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you tell me a little bit more about what's the one thing that's happened over these past 45 days that you went, I'd have never thought that actually would have transpired? Because we all have them aha moments that go, holy shit, like what happened? How did this happen?
Well, I want to go back to that. Some of the most unlikely business scenarios have come up during this period. Some of the most unlikely partnerships, some of the most unlikely deals. And I have this theory that when we were kids, we used to go out and pick up rocks because we didn't know what would be under the rock. And that's kind of what selling is today. It's you never know. I like to say that two of the biggest contracts I ever signed, one was I did a workshop for 2 people. And my assistant at the time tried to get me to cancel it, but I didn't. And I gave him great effort, and it turned into a 4-year deal. And the other one was a speaking engagement I did that I thought I was pretty terrible at. And on the following Monday, some guys called in and said, "Man, we loved you, and you're exactly what we've been looking for." And it turned into a really big partnership. So you never know. That's the point. The reason you have to work the muscle, the reason you have to make the call, the reason you have to remove the consideration, the reason you have to be open to anything and closed off to nothing is you never know. You just never know. And so many people during this period, have what I've been most disappointed in is how fast people will give up, how fast people will not show up, how fast people will just give in versus figure out a way to win. And I think that's the reason people need coaches in their life is by left to their own devices, they contract. They need a person in their life that says, I just did an interview with Steve Sims, and Steve Sims is a guy that really has no considerations, no hesitations. He will ask anybody for anything at any time. He has no fear of rejection. That's really the beauty of Steve Sims, right? And I think more people need that. More people need to go for it.
Don't you think, though, that comes down to some of the values and what you've been taught and your experiences, whether you have the courage? I would say that Steve Sims has an enormous amount of courage, because he's willing to do the things that most won't do in order to get to the result that he wants. And that's, somewhat of a learned behavior, and that's somewhat of something that comes internally within, that is ingrained in us as a young lad or a young lady. And what do you think that one consistent value? Because you're a driver. You're not afraid to say no. You've got the courage to move forward. What do you think that one value is that people are missing, or that they're not tapping into, that really could help them push forward and get in the game of life and in business?
I think how to use fear as fuel. I think fear of loss is not a bad thing. It's actually psychologically one of the number one drivers in the world for people. And I think big time people wake up every day afraid like everybody else does. They just use that fear as fuel. They come out swinging, Lisa. It ain't always polished, and it isn't always pretty, and it isn't always packaged in a box, and it isn't always well received by other people. But the reality is, big time people have an engine. Like, I found a gear in me during this period that I didn't even know I had. Yeah. It's a bigger engine. It's a higher prey drive. It's a bigger fight. And so thank goodness that we went through this for me to find it, because it's a whole new gear I didn't even know I had. That's the point. That's the point I would say about big time people, is that's the one thing. If you had to boil it down to one thing, they invert their fear. Fear is actually a good thing that drives them to want to achieve more once their back's against the wall.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's going to be a lot of people who truly are going to find their prey drive. There's going to be a lot of people who don't, and they contract. And, we've talked about that on Ken Wall's show. But there's a lot of people who are actually going to find that what you call prey drive in order to move forward, because their backs are against the wall, whether it's financially or emotionally, or they're drained. People right now are really learning lots about their teams, who those people are when their backs are against the wall. I watched a really great interview with Grant Cardone here a few days ago. It's the first time that I've ever really seen Grant really raw, like very straight to the point, no hoopla about, what's the consideration moving forward. These are the facts of the situation. And I think when people really start to retract, they let fear get in their way of actually playing in the game. And so what's the one step that you use to get the courage? Because it's one thing you can say, well, you just need the courage, but how do you actually get that courage? Because that's a process.
Well, the word encourage means to give courage. The word discourage means to take courage away. I actually have a fundamental belief that if you're low on courage, you can borrow some from somebody else who has a bunch.
That's a good
one. You better believe if after an interview with Steve Sims, I feel like I can do anything. Now that will go away, and we will convert back to our scarcity and afraid. But what happens is, every morning when I'm feeding my mind with certain people, they make me think bigger. They make me dream bigger. Some people are so caught up in the rat race, they can't even see opportunity. They can't see how big the opportunity is. They're so fixated on minute things that their mind cannot even be open to a bigger possibility. Right? Yeah. It's just the way of the world. Like, that's why Kiyosaki talked about the rat race and the fast track. And, and so I think the consideration people have to remove is, listen, I've spent time with some of the top people in the world. I've been on stage with them. I'm now doing partnerships with them. And here's what I would tell you. Once you get to that level, you figure out that you bring something very unique and special to the equation. They're not any better than you are. They may have more experience. They may have more confidence. They may have better marketing. Yeah. They have something that's the reason they're there. But when you're looking at them on face value, you bring something to the table. And that's what you got to know too. The best in the world could live in a small town. They don't have to live in LA or Chicago or New York City. They could be right. You're next door. Even Jesus in his hometown, they say, could anything good come out of Nazareth? Right? Anything good come out of that little dump of a town, right? And that's what they said about Jesus. So my point is, I think as I get older, I'm starting to realize that all of these people have their strengths, all of them have their weaknesses, all of them have kryptonite. And you got to get in the game and have enough faith in you. You got to encourage your own self. When nobody else will encourage you, you have to self-encourage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned kryptonite. What's your kryptonite, coach?
I mean, everybody's got a lot of kryptonite.
Yes, we do. And in times of crisis, we really see our kryptonite.
You know, when it comes to personal, you know, a good piece of chocolate's a kryptonite every now and then. You know, I think my kryptonite as an entrepreneur is I'm so interested and fascinated in so many things. Yeah. And I read so much and I spend so much time with top people that every day I get new information. And when I get new information, I want to do new things, but that causes us not to be able to take an idea and see it through to its logical conclusion. You know, and so I think that's tough, but I think that's very common of lots of entrepreneurs. Yeah. And you know, it's their ability to dream, it's their ability to see something. And, you know, I'm a big believer. If I have new information today that I didn't have yesterday, if I know a better way to do it today than I did yesterday, I'm okay with that. But that makes it very hard when you're marketing and when you're trying to do promotion cycles. And, you know, I think that's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Well, I think so. And I think, you know, have you ever read the book Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman, coach?
I've read Traction, but not Rocket Fuel.
Rocket Fuel really is exactly what you're talking about, is understanding your role in your company and staying in that role and having the confidence for other people to do their job well. And being focused. So Gino talks a lot about how you have a visionary and you have an integrator in your company, and you're the visionary in your company, coach, right? Because you're thinking of these ideas and, you know, like you said, you get distracted because somebody comes along with a really great idea that you can see immediately implemented into your business and you want to run with it. The problem is that the project before hasn't been completed yet. And so the vision or the integrator is really there to say, okay, wait, you know, keep you focused and moving forward. And I believe Chelsea really is that integrator for you in your company. So is it safe to say then, coach, that during this time, the one thing that really has brought to light for you is your ability to focus on projects?
Ask that question again. I'm laughing because Chelsea's in the room with me, and I know she's over there. She's over there smiling about when she wants to choke me, and when I want to choke her. And it's always because of how I think, and you know, there's a nice balance between the way I think and the way she thinks, because it is visionary and integrator. So ask that question. Ask that question again.
So I was just saying, in the time of, like, in this last 90, 60 days, is it safe to say that the biggest thing that you have learned about yourself and about your company and about your vision moving forward is the ability to really stay focused and harness your focus?
100%. I'd say 1,000%. If there's been one big thing that's come out of this, is I have a burning desire to narrow my focus.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a person that tries lots of things, Lisa. Yeah. I try different things. I try different tactics. I do throw a bunch of things against the wall. And then I say, this is what I like doing, and this is what I don't like doing, and this is what I want to do, and it's profitable. And so I think what we're doing is it's tough to get through all of this, trying to figure it out. But I think over a period of time, you begin saying, this is what we want to do. This is what I want to do. As the founder, visionary, primary person that's delivering the content, this is what I wake up and love doing. How do we build a business that leverages that? And I think we're finally getting clarity on that. We've tried things. Some of them have been successful. Some of them have been wildly successful. And revenue is my love language. If you ask me what my love language is, Gary Chapman needs to write a 6th love language, because mine is revenue. When it comes to company, I want results. I don't want to hear whining and complaining. We need money to run a business. And so to me, I'm such a results oriented person, but I think to your question, there are riches in niches. And I do believe that we're getting real clear as we come down the home stretch here, especially going into 2021, that we'll be culling a lot of things out that either are not profitable or I don't enjoy doing, or there's a lot of friction, to use a Steve Sims term. You know, there's friction in how we do it. It's complicated. So I think that's a progress that Chelsea and I both have made, that we're getting clearer and clearer every day on how we want to run, how the business is going to be ran, and how we can be highly profitable and enjoyable. It doesn't have to be so miserable. For the love of God, running a business shouldn't ruin your life, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and let's talk a little bit more about like challenges, because you and I have both faced a lot of adversity over the last year. Different challenges come into our business. I like to call it divorce in some of the relationships that I've had over the last year. And, you go through this grieving process because we build a relationship. We believe that, we're both. I think this is the biggest thing that most entrepreneurs suffer from. And I know I have. Everybody starts out in a relationship with the best intentions until something goes wrong. And then it goes wrong real fast. And learning ways to manage those types of relationships, you only find out what that path is when you're actually caught in the middle of that adversity. So how do you handle that? How do you handle those tough conversations that you have to have, whether it's with a partner or your wife or an employee? What's the process that you use, Coach, to handle those tough conversations?
I think one of the things, it hit me this weekend. I've never said it like this until I said it on Pete Vargas's Rise Up Challenge.
Yeah.
It's how fast can you convert a hurt feeling to an action?
Yeah.
Many times when we get our feelings hurt, it's emotional. We feel sorry for ourselves. We pout, we whine. We very seldom ask, what was my contribution to this adversity? So one piece is, when you get your feelings hurt from whatever comes along, how fast can you convert that hurt feeling to an action? Number one. Number two, I think when you have conflict with people, I did a whole session on this last year. Conflict is necessary for expansion. Okay. And I like to take the approach of my daughter. I can completely get all over my daughter. I can even give her a spanking. I can tell her I'm going to ground her. I'm going to take away television from her. We can have a knockdown, drag out fight. And that little girl within 7 minutes will come up and give me a hug and say, Daddy, I love you. I'm sorry. I just got too emotional. And it's so refreshing to see how she handles that at that age, right? When adults will stay mad at each other for 3 weeks and won't talk to each other and won't look at each other. And, I think that has a lot. I mean, we're certified in the DISC profile. We have the monster assessment division, and that's helped me to better understand when some people have conflict, they have certain ways they handle that conflict. Some of them come out fighting. Some of them get mad. Some of them get emotional. But I think as we age and mature, we really begin to grow our self-awareness of how we handle conflict. And we begin to adapt and we begin to adjust and say, well, maybe that's not the best way to handle conflict. Maybe, I've had some very expensive tuition over the last couple of year and a half with relationships that started good and went bad, and everybody had good intentions. And, in some of those relationships, I'll be honest with you, I would go home at night sometimes and go, man, something just seems too good to be true. Like, why would a person invest in me like this? Why would a person want to pay for everything when I'm around? Why would a person like the something just don't, it's, it just don't seem right. And
tuition.
Yeah. And it was intuitions, like, or comments were made. And I'm like, I don't really, that's not me. Like, I don't really believe that. And then you kind of get sucked into this concept of man, it could be good. And man, it came. And we're so vulnerable as humans. We're so vulnerable as people. We want to see the good in people. And unfortunately, there is good and evil in the world. There are evil people in the world. There are people, when I get major conflict, because I'm a person of faith, I go back and ask, what does the Bible say about handling conflict? And unfortunately, the Bible doesn't say a lot about handling conflict. So then I start looking at models to handle conflict. And I start saying, how do we get a win for you and a win for me? And that has backfired on me many times. Asking a simple question. I mean, how did I get a win for you? Some people have taken advantage of that. Some people have taken advantage of my compassion for people. Some people I've given 7, 8, 10 opportunities, and they still screwed me after giving them all those opportunities. So it makes me, unfortunately, Lisa, it makes me very private in a lot of things. It makes me very, very close to the hip. It makes me probably not trust large amounts of people. Like I go back and forth between trusting and non-trusting. And do you really have my best interest at heart? And, are we in this together? Or, I mean, I always ask all of these questions just because of the things that have happened to me, mainly over the last couple of years.
Well, what I've learned is that when I'm learning to, same thing, I think number one, a lot of miscommunication happens within the communication. And that's where a lot of partnerships and relationships, whether it's in your life or in business, fall apart because people really aren't bringing their true, authentic self to the table. Yeah. And they don't feel comfortable enough to be able to tell you, listen, this is what I think. A, B, C, whether you like it or not, this is me on the table. Yeah. And I think when we start to change those conversations, and I think that only comes with experience, and as you age, you become more confident in who you are, those relationships become deeper, and you do learn whose best intentions do they have at heart. But one thing I have to say that I have definitely learned is when I have conversations with the people that I'm determining whether or not I really have a trustworthy relationship with them, I look to the people around them and how they react in the conversations. And that really gives you a lot of insight into the person that you're actually asking the questions to. And they'll tell you non-verbally or verbally what really is that person about.
Yeah. And, I was thinking as you were talking about that, one of my best friends was also my number one assistant coach when I was a basketball coach. We lived together. So he lived in the same house as me, and he was my assistant coach. Yeah. And we used to get fighting mad with each other. And I bet I fired him at least 9 times. And he would come in and have a bad attitude, and I'd send him home. Well, here's the thing. When he went home, I had to go home and live with him. So I would get home at night, and we would have dinner, and we wouldn't look at each other, and we wouldn't talk to each other. And then the next day we'd get back and do it again. And then we'd go to, in the old days, like a Bonanza or some type of Western sizzling and eat dinner. And then when it come time to get married, I think I was the best man in his wedding, and we were good friends. But it was really that conflict that we had that made us so closer with each other. Yeah. And I mean, emotions get high when you're in high pressure situations. People get emotional. In the world I'm in now, people get emotional about money. People get emotional about deals. People get emotional about the stress and pressure. Listen, what we do every day is not easy. When you're dealing with thousands of people a day, every day, you see all forms of human nature. You see people disappoint you. You see people start and quit. You see people that you thought had your back. Lisa, I've had people tell me, I've helped some people make millions of dollars and say, I would never leave you. You'll be my coach forever. And then the very first thing they don't like, they want to quit, or they do quit, or they get mad at me. And it's almost an unrealistic expectation. Yeah. I think we do it pretty good for the number of people that we help every day. And are there people every day that wake up and want to quit? Of course. Are there people that get frustrated? Yes. Are there people that think this or that? There's no way you can help that many people and not have something happen. I don't care how good it is. So it's a tough business. The coaching model is a tough business to be in.
It is. Well, and the expectations are high because not only, people still you have to understand, you have to do the work. You can't do it for them. You can guide them, you can advise them, you can show the system, you can show the process. But at the end of the day, you either got to do the work or you're not going to do the work. And that's just the way it's going to be, period. So, we talked about mistakes, choices that we make, relationships that fall apart. Why do they fall apart? What's the one thing, Coach, that you believe moving forward that is going to take you from a single-digit millionaire to a double-digit millionaire? And I don't mean like, well, it's going to be this process or this system. I want to know what mindset are you going to be able to activate over the next 90 to 120 days that's really going to take you to that next level? Because you're here, but now you want to be here. And there has to be a mindset shift. What's that like?
Yeah. It sucks being a little single-digit millionaire, Lisa. I'm going to tell you. It does, especially when you could be a double or triple-digit millionaire. Now, here's and that keeps me up at night. Because for so long I've wanted to be a national thought leader. I've wanted to build a scalable company. You know, my mentor was Dr. Covey. And when Dr. Covey, for a period of time, many people don't know this, his company was a $2 million company. I mean, he was speaking and coaching and writing books, and he put his son in charge of the company, and it went from 2 million to 264 million. And Covey came back later and said, man, I'm a great teacher, but I'm a terrible manager. And, you know, I'm really looking for structures that we can scale, whether that be online academies, whether that be coaching summits that we have 100 people at 5,000 a pop, whether that be, you know, I'm looking for what is the best thing to that, and I'll use a Steve Sims term, return on energy. I'm looking for something that I enjoy, that I get energy from, that's also scalable. You know, we could technically have thousands and thousands of people in Monster Producer, and we use a church model where, you know, I'm the pastor and I'm teaching and we're sharing that message to people. We could have thousands of people in our online academy. We can have high ticketed items like my coaching summit where we get 100 people at a time and generate, you know, $500,000 per summit. There's certification models that we've talked about. I mean, trust me, if you don't think that I stay up at night every night thinking about scaling, return on energy, how do we do it better? How do we do it at a higher level? I think that's the challenge with every coach out there, right? And it's so personality driven. And it's so, I mean, people, when they see me speak, want me to be their coach. I always joke and I say, you know, you don't see Coach Burt and then get excited about getting Coach Kurt. You know, you don't want my cousin coaching you. You want me coaching you. Yeah. And so we've tried to structure it in a way that we could scale, but that's a question we talk about every single day.
Why do you think, Coach, that money motivates you so much? Like why money? Like, why is that your primary driver? And it's okay to have money as a primary driver. Money is my primary driver, but why do you think that that's what drives you?
You know, I've thought about that. I actually don't think money is my primary driver. I think pursuit of something is a much bigger primary driver to me. I have this talk with Natalie yesterday that I get up in the morning. I went to work in Nashville yesterday, and she's like, "Why do you want to go to Nashville? Why do you want to go all the way down to Nashville? Why do you want to go do that?" And it's like, and I'm like, it's just the pursuit of going somewhere. It's the pursuit that motivates me. It's like moving. I'm not stagnant. Yeah. I'm not stuck. I'm going from here to there. That excites me. Yeah. Fear of loss is actually a primary driver for me. Money is in there because, you know, I enjoy living a good life. I enjoy, I heard this the other day. What was once a luxury is now considered a necessity for some, right? And I think about the plane and the different things, and, you know, what once was considered a luxury, we now consider a necessity. And to me, money makes the world go round. It's the economic planet that we live on. We need money to expand. We need money to build long-term wealth. We need money to bring wealth for the future generations. We need that money. So it's not that money is a primary motivator for me. It's actually just a reality that I've accepted. You got to think, I was a high school basketball coach, Lisa, making $60,000 a year, loved every second of it. And if you would have come to me when I was 28 years old or 30 years old and said, "Coach, you could be a millionaire," I would have said, "Why? Why don't I don't care. I love what I do. I love coaching the kids. I love winning games." Like it wouldn't even have registered with me. So when do you
think that shift changed for you then?
31 years old, I start my business with less than $7,500, no loans, no lines of credit, no investors. And I go out there, and my biggest client, part of the reason I retired from athletic coaching is because I signed on a big client, and this big client was gonna pay me $12,000 a month to be their coach, $144,000. It was 2 or 3 times what I was making as a high school basketball coach. I had done everything I could do it in high school. I was bored. I'm like, all right, man, I've done this, and this is a problem I have too. I get bored very easily. I get bored with things. I need new stimulus. I need a new challenge. I need something in front of me. I need to work a new muscle. And so I sign on this big client. I walk in and retire. And within 3 months of starting my business, my big client cancels on me. They had a tax issue, and they basically said, "Look, we can't afford to pay you as a coach, and we're voiding this contract." And they cut the contract. And then I had no money, no clients. I got an office. I got an assistant. And man, I'm scared to death. I'm like, I got to go find something. And thank goodness, thank the good Lord, a bank and a guy named Wib Evans hired me to coach their company, and they paid me, I think, $75,000 with like a $50,000 bonus. And man, if it wasn't for that, I don't know what would have happened. So at that moment, Lisa, I understood. I have no paycheck coming in. I have no money coming in. I have no income. What am I going to do? I got to figure out how to sell something. And that's really when I started learning the sales system that I teach today. It's when I started putting together the legacy selling system, because I was scared to death. That's what taught me the value of money. Now, let me tell you another time during this economic period, it's taught me how much money you really need.
Yeah.
Because no matter how much money you have on hand, there's no way that when you're not bringing in revenue like you're typically used to bringing in revenue, and it's so much harder to sell something, and I've seen two types of people, just to be brutally honest with you. I've seen one type of person. It's really hard to sell to a person that's scared to death to invest $1,500 in themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's much easier to sell to a person that is used to investing money and spending money. This is the reason they have sophisticated investors and non-accredited investors. The whole concept is that sophisticated people have a higher awareness. They understand they're taking a risk. They understand that they could lose the money, but they also understand they can make a lot of money, which is why they do that. So I found it harder to sell low ticket items than it is to sell higher ticket items during this period.
Well, and I think too, there's a mindset. So you wouldn't know this, but my husband is in the oil industry, and our entire marriage has always been him gone a lot of the time and home. So when he's gone, he makes very good money. But when he's home, he doesn't make a dollar. And so it taught us that we have to be really aware of a 6-month cycle of having no income and a 6-month cycle of having a lot of income. So when this crisis came, it's like no big deal for us because we're used to him not working for X amount of weeks and months at a time. So I think you're right. It's about, understanding that you have to have a nest egg all the time. Keep $100 a day, whatever your wage is. It doesn't matter if it's $1,000 a month or it's $100,000 a month. There's a percentage that you always have to keep adding to the bucket in case of times like this.
Yeah. And I think that's the one thing I've learned. Listen, for years, I didn't invest any money. I just really put the money in the bank account and then started to invest, I don't know, 3 or 4 years into my business. I started to make investments. I do believe your wealth can't wait. I do believe every day you gotta build a primary skill that the world will pay for. Yeah. And then you got to create excess cash that you then reinvest into smart assets. And smart assets are assets that produce money. Yeah. I look at the lodge that we have, and it's just now getting up and being rented. It's rented this weekend through Airbnb. It's starting to get back and get booked. Our house in Florida is starting to get booked again. Yeah. But the reality is the lodge is a structure. And if it didn't bring $1 in passive income, it has helped us to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars for coaching there. Yeah. So that's still an asset to me. Now, what I'd like to have happen is it make money without me there and make a bunch of money with me there. And then I can enjoy it when I want to. That's an intelligent asset. And I think too many Americans, I'm trying to teach my daughter this. We went to Walmart the other night, which I may never do again the rest of my life. And not only was I scared for my life when I was there, somebody was getting arrested in the parking lot. My poor little 7-year-old daughter's running through there. She's got these 2 little fake kids, like she's got little baby kids. She's babysitting. So she's got a stroller through Walmart. People are looking at us like, "What are you doing with the little baby in Walmart during this period?" But they're not even real kids. And I'm having to tell people like they're not real. They're fake kids. Then we go in there and I'm like, "Look, you got $40. You have to invest a minimum of 10% of that in your lemonade business." She wants to buy $40 worth of toys. Yeah. I'm like, no. Okay. At least $4 is going to go to something that can help you make money. Now, what's it going to be? You're going to build a stand? Are you going to buy something you can promote with marketing? Are you going to buy lemons? You got to spend some of your money on it. Right. And she fought me on that. And she fought me on that. And why can't I just spend it all on LOLs? Why can't I just do this? I'm like, look, you're going to learn how to build a business. So last night at our house, if you saw the picture, she was doing massages and foot rubs for people. First thing she asked before she even started is, "Daddy, what's the tip? How much are you going to pay me to do this?" And I'm like, "Well, you haven't even done it yet." Right? As soon as I was done, she just followed me around the house until I gave her some money. She's like, $10. And I gave her $10, and she's like, $10? Is that all you're going to give me? Did I do a better job than that? And I'm like, these kids, man, we're trying to teach them though how to reinvest and build business first versus buy liabilities.
Well, this is the thing, is the school system doesn't do it for them, right? They don't teach financial literacy in the schools. They don't teach business skills in the school. They teach, economics. They'll teach, 1+1 is 2, some of the fundamentals of what we need. But in everyday life, we don't get those skills. How to be a better presenter, how to communicate better, all these fundamentals that we use every single day. It's funny you mentioned your story about Ella Grace. So when the girls were, because I have twin daughters, for those of you who aren't watching, when they were, I think they were about 7 years old, 8 years old, so about the same age as Ella Grace, we went to Disneyland, I guess it was. Or no, it was San Diego Zoo. And we gave them $50 each. And we said, okay, you have $50 and you can buy whatever you want for the next 3 days. But we're not buying you anything. But we're going to teach you how to prepare and think about, if you're in this store and you buy everything in the store and you have 2 more days from there, you're not going to have no more money. Right. So you think about, what do you really want, and then make a decision at the end of the day. It was the best thing that we ever did. You're teaching Ella Grace the fundamentals of money, and that has instilled them. They're 15 now. They think about the things that they're going to purchase, and is it something I want? They're about to start driving a car. Mm-hmm. Those are important skills, but those are skills that they'll use when they have a business.
Yeah, and most people generate revenue or generate money and they buy liabilities. Yeah. And my whole philosophy is, how do I convert a liability to an asset? You heard me earlier say, how do I convert a hurt feeling? A hurt feeling is a liability. Yeah. that can become an asset if you use the hurt feeling instead of whining and pouting, which becomes more of a liability, and you convert it to some action. Now you've converted a lower level resource to a higher level of productivity. And that is what big time people do. They convert hurt feelings, they convert liabilities, they convert things that most people just waste time, energy, money, and they convert it to something incredible.
Well, they're wallowing, right? They're wallowing in whatever it happens to be. Well, Coach, I have one other question before we close the show, and that is you have a son coming, so congratulations. And I know having, it's been a while and a rough road to get to finally get pregnant and have this wonderful new baby come into your life. So when that boy is 17 years old, what's the one piece of advice that you're going to tell him?
Man, that's a tough question. I think about the one thing I would give my children that I've been given maybe by my mother, and it is the prey drive. I think I'm not as interested in IQ as I am in EQ. I'm not as interested in how smart you are and in how much fight you have in you. And if I could give my daughter any of those things, it's that one thing, right? It's not intellect quotient. It's pure drive, pure will to fight through, pure will to show up every day, pure will to convert the hurt feelings into something big. And I think that's probably what I'll be telling my son when he's that age. They tell me boys are much different than girls, and we're going to find out soon enough, right? And so I think EG will be a great sister. She loves playing with kids. She will talk to any kid on planet Earth, and so she's practicing right now to be a big sister. So she got those 2 little fake kids that she carries around everywhere and feeds them.
She'll have her own little live dolly to play with until that's old.
That's good. So yeah, that's what I tell anybody though. I tell anybody's kids that. It's the same thing I taught those high school basketball players that I coach, because I was really like a dad to them. It's like having 30 girls every year. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then they look to me for guidance and discipline and counsel and show up every day, work the muscle every day, show up every day and work the muscle, and good things will happen to you.
So Coach, you were raised by a single mother. And to the best of my knowledge, you never knew your dad or never had much input with your dad. Do you think that's a driving force for you?
Yeah.
And you do?
Absolutely. I don't know psychologically how it is a driving force. I do have a relationship with my dad now, and he was young, and I give him a pass. I'm not mad at him or frustrated, or I don't hold him. He was just young. He was just a kid, and he didn't really know how to be a dad yet. But he's worked harder to be a good dad, and I think has it motivated me? Probably deep within me psychologically. When I feel like I'm not good enough, or when I get feelings of probably abandonment, or when I think, something happened this past weekend where I thought they were kind of shunning me, or kind of, indirectly saying I wasn't good enough. And man, the minute that happened, you have these feelings, these hurt feelings that come back. Yep. But I've trained myself to not pout for long. I mean, I really think most people that work with me every day will tell you that I may pout for a minute, but I don't pout long. And I get back up quick and I get moving quickly. So why did I write the book Person of Interest? Because it's about being known, you know. Yeah. And I think, you know, I think if you really don't feel like you have a relationship with your dad, even your own dad doesn't know you. And so I think it has converted a lot of my drive and passion and energy to become known in the world. So I'm not mad at him. I actually thank him. You know, if he'd have been the dad I wanted, maybe I wouldn't be Coach Burt today. Maybe I'd have been Coach Kurt, you know.
Well, and I think, you know, our experiences actually define who we are today. It's how we react to those experiences that really inspire us and move us forward. So thank you very much, Coach, for joining me today on the Coffee with Lisa podcast, and stay tuned for the 10-digit millionaire.
Yeah, this is good. You're good. I have a lot of respect for you. You are truly a pit bull. You follow up like a fanatic, which I love about you. And you know, you do create real value for people. So I appreciate you. Glad that we've gotten to know each other over the last few years.
Well, I'm very glad that we'll continue to do business together, and great things are coming ahead.
Yep. And I got to tell people that if they don't know, Lisa came to my lodge in Tennessee to a Christmas party that I had. She came all the way from Canada, and she walked in and she said, I didn't come from Canada not to close a deal with you. So I got to give her credit, because most people won't drive across town, and she came all the way to Nashville from Canada. And that told me a lot about her. So
a girl who knows what she wants, that I want to do business with you. So that's all it was all boiled down to. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.